I won't go on for long, but some preface is still necessary. First, this top of albums is on the one hand not objective, because it's not about the numbers of listenings, copies sold, or the average rating of listeners, but I can't call it completely subjective either, because it's not about what I listen to more often, what resonates with me more or evokes more emotions. If it was like that, the entire top would consist of albums by Linkin Park, 3 Days Grace, Gesche and Nerve. This top is something in between. I call the best albums that I consider brilliant in terms of songwriting and composition, while they may not evoke as strong emotions in me as heartfelt, but still quite simple albums. Secondly, usually in such tops the order goes from the last place to the first, but I will do the opposite so that more people hear about the best, because of course not everyone will watch it till the end. But I still recommend watching until the end, because there I will summarize the statistics of which year in the first quarter of the 21st century turned out to be the most fruitful for the best albums. So the first place, Radiohead, Hell to the Thief from 2003. Instrumentally, this is the most brilliant 56 minutes in the history of music. About the lyrics, well, we all understand atmospheric, beautiful, but in terms of technicality, come on. Who listens to Radiohead after the Kid A album because of the lyrics? Well, in general, what else could you expect from me if not this album in the first place? Hell to the Thief is my favorite Radiohead album, although OK Computer could compete, but it was released in 1997, so it's not in the topic here anyway. And Radiohead itself is my favorite band ever. I was at their concert recently and it was literally the best event of my life. Wow, I saw Tom York live. I'm so jealous of people who saw Kurt Cobain, Chester Bennington, Dolores O'Riordan, Ozzy Osbourne, and now I am that kind of person. Noize MC, порнофильмы, Нервы, Монеточка, Radiohead, not to mention dozens of lesser known bands. There are still others to visit while they're, still alive. The second place, it was actually very difficult to choose here because I have an obvious favorite and it's already in the first place here, but then it's not very clear how to sort them. So I decided that it should be the album by Noize MC, Выход, город, from 2021. I listen to it quite rarely, like the first place here, but it's simply impossible not to admit that this is his magnum opus. It has simply incredible storytelling, songwriting, and when you realize that the instrumentals are almost entirely written by him, it blows your mind. Because the instrumentals here are very diverse and interesting. I think there are like 30 tracks in each song. The third place is the album A Thousand Suns from 2010 by Linkin Park. I understand that this is far from their most famous albums. It doesn't have their most popular songs, but the plot and message of this album are very cool. I had a video about all Linkin Park albums, and I also had a video about the beauty of concept albums, where I also talk about A Thousand Suns. Both of them are in my Ukrainian channel, so I have subtitles anyway. The fourth place, the Cranberries in the End from 2019. I don't know actually if this album would have hit me so hard if it weren't for the context. Dolores O'Riordan died 15 months before its release, but she managed to record vocal demos. The band did not change them, leaving the sound raw and the album honest, intimate and deep. At the same time, Dolores sang about the finitude of life, about loneliness, about love, and it is impossible to just listen to it in the background because the album takes all your attention when you listen to it. The fifth place, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stadium Arcadium from 2006, a huge work of 2 hours and 28 songs, and it is actually not only about the number because the songs are beautiful also, and this is also the last album that Frusciante was on before he left the band for 10 years. The sixth place is American Idiot from 2004 by Green Day. Again, a story album about how capitalism and modern city society breaks people's lives and all that. And the song Boulevard of Broken Dreams became the anthem of our generation to about the same extent as Smells Like Teen Spirit 13 years before it for the previous generation. The seventh place goes to the album Sword from 2008 by Portishead. There's actually nothing to comment on here because Portishead are the kings of trip-hop. You can't argue that. I gave 8th place to Marilyn Manson, but the album Mechanical Animals, that is actually my favorite one, unfortunately was released in 1998, so his We Are Chaos from 2020 would be suitable. And I really like his blues rock era, which began with the Pale Emperor, I guess. I award 9th place to the Eminem's 4th album, The Eminem Show from 2002. Also, probably not the most obvious choice against the super popular The Marshall Mathers LP or the Plot Drive and the Death of Slim Shady, but the Eminem Show is the best for me because actually it is sincere, frank, and musically catchy also. In 10th place, according to my feelings, there should be some System of a Down album, but my choice will seem strange to you. I understand that most people idolize the album Toxicity from 2001, but sorry, I put still this album from 2002 here. In principle, all their albums are toothy and instrumentally very high quality, and this is one of the few bands that can be evaluated more or less linearly because they didn't change their style much, didn't experiment with the sound, but simply stamped out high-quality material. And this album is the highest quality in my opinion. Then I won't put Darren Malakian's project Scars on Broadway too far, so his album Dictator from 2018 deserves to be in 11th place. In the last 4 years probably, I've been listening to Scars on Broadway even more than System of a Down because instrumentally it's much more interesting and the lyrics are so wonderful that I even made a separate video about the lyrics of Scars on Broadway in my Ukrainian channel. 12th place, suddenly a very fresh album, The Last Dinner Party from the Pyre 2025. I recently learned about this band and I was just blown away by how cool this is. It's like a mix of Arctic Monkeys, Nancy Sinatra, Portishead and Tarantino movie soundtracks, with lyrics like Taylor Swift's. I love postmodernism for such masterpieces. By the way, lyrics like Taylor Swift's. 13th place, Taylor Swift's album Dialogy, Folklore and Evermore 2020. I think I can rate them as a dialogy, very pleasant instrumental, catchy lyrics, deep and beautiful atmosphere, so it deserves to be here. 14th place I give to the album by 3 Days Grace called 3 Days Grace from 2003. Emotional, beautiful instrumentally, and actually this is legendary metal band and their debut album. In fact, it's getting harder and harder for me here because there have actually been a lot of cool albums and it's hard to choose the best ones. Dozens of famous artists like Oasis and Red Snapper and hundreds of relatively niche ones like Жеще, Ну Такое, Cat Mouse or Chazile won't make it here, not because their albums were released before 2001, but simply because if I were to list everything I like from what's been released over the past 25 years, This video would be like 5 hours long. However, on my Instagram today I posted a list of the best releases for 2025 and a year ago for 2024 and so on. You can find these posts using the links in the description and supplement this list with several dozens wonderful works over the past 4 years. And now the 15th place is Elizium 13 from 2008. In fact, usually the lyrics of this band are quite banal, but this album incredibly shows misanthropy mixed with hope, pacifism and love. I guess it's a great mixture. 16th place, ТНМК Дзеркало from 2014, and I don't really like the ТНМК band in general. However, the album Дзеркало is probably the beautifulest album among all Ukrainian language music. And yes, I understand that there are legends like super popular bands like Okean Elzy, or among the new albums like Ty Romantica by the Moore project. But this is my top, and I warned that it's not about popularity or any numbers. Arctic Monkeys AM from 2013. I'm always surprised that this album is so fresh like 2013. For some reason it feels like it's from, I don't know, 2006. Well, there's no need to explain why this album is in the list. It's both very cool and quite popular, but at the same time it's only 17th place because, well, the previous ones are deeper and more diverse. The 18th place, the White Stripes Elephant from 2003, but I thought it came out a little earlier because damn, even the album Morning Glory by Oasis was released in 1995 and it sounds fresher than Elephant. Well, that's just my quirks. And about the album itself, I can actually say that it sounds masterful and measured, and there are only 2 members in the band, and 7 Nation Army actually has somehow become a classic for football fans to sing along to. Ba 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 bum bum ba 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 ba. And then comes the Black Keys 2011 album El Camino. If you haven't heard this album and the Black Keys in general, you're wrong, you have definitely heard them. The album is also cool. I've already gotten tired of picking up epithets, so let's just go to the next album. Pearl Jam Dark Matter from 2024 is in 20th place, and in fact I really recommend checking out what they've been dropping in recent years, because this is no longer 19th grunge, but more like great alternative rock. At the same time, it's great they have transformed into more calm and melancholic guys. They don't try to pretend like they are still 20 at 60, but usually, I mean, bands do such things, and this fake is visible. The 21st place is taken by Dельфин 442 from 2018. I really like how the instrumental is worked out here. It's like something very cool, and the verses, of course, are also incredible. And finally, the 22nd place, Blackwell Brides, Phantom Tomorrow from 2021. I think it's important to finish beautifully, so the most epic album in the list is at the last place. And now the statistics. Every year out of 25, I add up the points. For the first place 22 points, for the 22nd place 1 point, respectively. When there are several albums in 1 year, I add up these points together, like I mix up them. According to this method, the statistics came out like this. 2003 wins because it had Hail to the Thief in the first place, 3 Days Grace in 14th, and Elephant in 18th. Then there are 2002 and 2020, but if you count not the hex of the top but simply the number of albums from this top as if they were all equal, then the gap is not so big. In some years there was one album, in some two, but 2003 is still the only year in which as many as 3 albums were released that I included in the top. And actually the top is pretty subjective still. By the way, as a fan of American music of the 90s, I would be interested in finding the best year in the 90s according to the same scheme. For films, it's obviously 1994, and for music, 1994 is quite tragic due to Cobain's death, but 91, 95 and 97 could claim the title of the best, but I could be wrong actually. That's all. I remind you of the top releases of 2025 on my Instagram. There are as many as 49 things there. Thanks for watching and Happy New Year! Everything will be fine in the end. If everything is not fine, that it is not the end yet.
I won't even touch you, I'll always remain addicted to music, trying to drown out, not to fade away, to remember the gains, not the losers, to step into nowhere and not be afraid.